Hey folks, it's Alex here, and I'm talking to you today because, as you know, we are not having a regular class on Tuesday, October 8th. We're having an online class only. And part of that online class involves you watching a couple screencasts and making some feedback on your partner group's outlines. And reading some things that are listed right down here. And so this is the start of that. I want you to make sure that you're keeping up with the reading. We've got the Postlethwaite and Callaghan National Assessments of Educational Achievement reading, which you can download for free. It's only 14 pages long. Please take a look at that. This guy is a big deal for us in comparative international education. He is, I think, what I would call an expert in national assessments of educational achievement, and has done this nifty little 14-page, quite frankly, it's kind of like a summary for us that I think will help quite a bit. And then Miyoko Saito and Frank Van Capel did a really interesting chapter for a volume that I edited a couple of years ago where they talked about how to monitor the quality of education. And they looked at some of the relationship between the concept of quality, methodology for measuring quality, and the link between research and policy. And they used some of the large-scale international achievement study data in order to do so. So you've got an example of kind of what national assessments of educational achievement are, and then an example of how that might look if you were trying to monitor quality. We are broadly talking about ways to measure educational progress and indicators of development. And to do so, for this week, we're really talking about how to use national or international assessments of education. So I want to address this by looking at a workshop, quite frankly, that I did with some Saudi policymakers a couple of years ago. And I have used this quite frankly, a lot. I've used it before before this actual workshop. I've used it many times since, but I wanted to show you what I was talking with them about because I think this is also another way of understanding how education and development can be overlapping, in particular when using international assessments of education. Right? So it's a way to measure or empirically discern or observe what's going on in education in terms of quality, in terms of content, in terms of practice. So building on our, I guess, more theoretical, although some of you are using the term philosophical, I would still stick with theoretical argument and discussion, maybe more discussion than argument, that we had in class last week. One of the things we're concerned with is how do we link the world of development and aid with the world of education. And we've been looking at different institutions and organizations that are involved. Today I'd like to talk specifically about how national education systems can be involved in linking development with education, specifically using international assessment data. So how do we define and implement a strategic national approach to international testing? And how can Saudi Arabia, in particular, be successful, which is a word that I always critique, in TIMSS, which is the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study? And yes, I did make this up. Well, first thing to think of is TIMSS, which is, as I've said before, the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, is a very rich data set. It's been going on for many years now. Actually started as TIMSS in 1995, but there was a first international math and science study in the late 1960s. I went off the reservation there. 60s. There was another second international math and science study in the early 1980s, and then in 1995 and every 4 years since then there has been a TIMSS. Originally it was called the Third International Mathematics and Science Study, and now it's just called the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. There are other international assessments like PISA or TALIS or PEARLS. PISA is the Program for International Student Assessment. TALIS is the Teaching and Learning International Assessment. PEARLS is the Progress in International Reading and Literacy Study. So a whole bunch that we could work with. In particular, if we just look at the last three cycles, the 2003, 2007, and 2011 cycles, you can see that the number of countries participating in each cycle is growing from 49 in 2003. And by the way, in 95, I think there were roughly 40. To 64 countries in 2011. In particular, I'm interested in what goes on in the Arabian Gulf and in Arab countries in general, so I'm also interested in how many Arab countries and benchmarking communities are participating. We've gone from 10% participating in 2003 to 15 in 2011. So it's a rich data set. It gives a lot of information, and it's an interesting way to think about bridging development and education. So how specifically does TIMSS or any other large-scale assessment help policymakers or help ministries of education or help development organizations understand education? Well, first of all, it is one kind of data and only one kind of data, but the way that these international assessments like TIMSS are set up provides rather high quality data given the size of the data set. There's always going to be some imprecision in a data set as large as TIMSS or PEARLS or PISA or TALIS or any of those. But in TIMSS in particular, it provides some relatively high quality data. It's measured well. It is a way for organizations and institutions to internationally benchmark the education systems that they're interested in. It is a way to monitor, track, measure, empirically observe achievement of students and of teachers and of schools, and the activity that all those entities participate in. It provides a way to look at comparative strengths and weaknesses. This is especially important when we're talking about understanding how development and education come together, because by being able to look at strengths as well as weaknesses, we can identify which parts of the education system or an educational practice or procedure or policy might need to be reproduced and emphasized, and which parts you wouldn't want to. You'd want to get rid of or improve. And finally, it provides, because of the number, remember how many are involved here, because of the number of systems involved, it provides quite a good range of peer groups and target groups to do some comparisons with. All right, what does TIMSS give us, meaning Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Education or any other institution or organization that is interested in monitoring an educational system? What does it give them just by participating? Well, it can increase the understanding of key school and non-school factors. This is largely because there are often with these assessments a series of background questionnaires. And these background questionnaires provide really rich data about the students, about the teachers, about the classrooms, about the schools, and often about the curriculum. It can provide a resource for identifying areas of concern and action. See my point above. It can develop and improve capacity for national monitoring and improvement, or for institutional, if it's an institution rather than the nation, monitoring and improving or working on education. And it provides a way for organizations, institutions, ministries to become part of a worldwide community of researchers. Everybody has access to this data. It is publicly available and it is free. If you want to, right now, you can stop playing this video, go to the TIMSS website and download all of the data since 1995. It's all available right now for free online. And you can look at any country in the world, compare it with your own, look across countries, whatever you want to do. Now, one of the drawbacks of TIMSS is that anybody can look at that data, and it can be misrepresented, it can be inappropriately analyzed. There are lots of pitfalls as well, but if we want benefits, there are actually quite a few. So when I talk to especially policymakers, they're often interested in what success looks like. And I always have a problem with this word because success looks like whatever you want it to look like. Right? If I say that me not falling down on the way up the stairs is success, then voila. If I make it to the top of the stairs without hitting my face on the ground, then I have been a success. But I think a better way to measure that would be to think about three things that I've emphasized in your project as well. That is infrastructure, capacity, and sustainability. If we can look at the educational infrastructure for a particular system, like Saudi Arabia's, and say that it provides adequate opportunities and resources for all students in all conditions and contexts and backgrounds, it's pretty good. So there's a measure of equity. I'm off the reservation again. Equity that goes with infrastructure. Capacity. Capacity has to do with the skills and the knowledge that is available to students and teachers. And some of it has to do with what skills and knowledge students and teachers have. How well do they teach? How equipped are they to learn? How good is the management of resources and the development of curriculum? Those are all capacity issues that can be measured. And then sustainability. What do they have in a particular system that empowers them to continually strive to improve infrastructure and capacity? That enables them to monitor and improve. Now, the dark side of this is that anytime there's monitoring, there's the opportunity for punishment. And accountability often looks like punishment more than it looks like improvement. So we have to remember that for every success indicator we come up with related to infrastructure, capacity, and sustainability, we also have a, quite frankly, failure is kind of a strong word, but we have a negative or a dark side, which we're going to try to avoid. Not by ignoring that it exists, but by saying maybe there are other ways to do things. So if we're talking to a bunch of policymakers in Saudi Arabia about their education system, and we want to know what KSA, that's the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, success looks like, well, here's what they see. Top of Gulf and Arab achievement rankings. In other words, the students in the Arab country are outperforming all of their peers. Significantly above international mean and math and science achievement. In other words, they're not only outperforming their peers, but they're outperforming their international competitors. And a national education system characterized by consistently high achieving students. In other words, they want to see this kind of a growth curve, not this kind or this kind or this kind. Motivated expert teachers. Thank you, Finland, for giving us that. Actually, it is a really good thing, and Finland has, and Singapore as well, have very highly regarded ways of training their teachers. But having motivated expert teachers and a way for providing them with continuous professional development will always be an important part of educational success and lead to enhanced development. Strong parent and community support, international reputation for excellence, regional reputation as an educational leader. And in Saudi Arabia, they are particularly interested with this idea of there being a knowledge society and a knowledge economy that is fed by Saudi schools. In other words, they are contributing to this on a continuous and consistent basis. The problem is that currently Saudi Arabia doesn't look anything like that. They're at the bottom of the achievement rankings. They're significantly below the international mean in math and science. They are inconsistent in how their students achieve. They have huge mixes in ability of teachers, very inconsistent parent support, and no reputation for excellence or as an educational leader. And Saudi schools, quite frankly, if we're measuring that, aren't doing much or anything to feed back into the development of a knowledge society or an economy. So, we could take a look at what that means, and we will do that in the next screencast.